Hello, this is the Newtypes Podcast. I'm your host Lonecrit with my co-hosts CBF and Young Kaiser, as usual. So it seems we're local heroes now.
Listen, after shit we went through, we at least need to get something out of it. I don't know.
But we didn't destroy the Pink Russian, though.
True.
I mean, I'd say we contributed to its destruction, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, by cheering on the RX-78. Truly, the contribution of the century.
Well, yeah, haven't you seen Gundam Unicorn yet, Lonecrit?
No, Unicorn sucks.
I have not seen Gundam Unicorn, and to be honest, I don't really intend to, except for Minerva Zabi. My question is, why would anybody think we took down the RX-78 in the first place?
That's actually a good question.
Honestly, don't question it. It's gonna be more effort than it's worth to try to dispel that rumor anyway. Let's just act like it never happened.
Meanwhile, did you see, like, the mural outside for CBF? And, Kaiser, did you see, like, the change we can believe in poster?
Oh yeah, I actually like that one. To be fair, this gives me a good amount of clout in preparation for creating my own content. Follow me on Kaiser Shonen on YouTube/Kaiser Shonen.
Yeah, same for when I make the second channel of mine. But anyway, so guys.
You both disgust me. Wait a sec. Firstly, okay, where the fuck is my thing, huh?
I don't know. I'm willing to bet that it's, still a work in progress. Don't worry, buddy.
Look, maybe once you finally make a Kamen Rider video, Lonecrit, they will actually do it.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Anyway, so guys, I've got a funny anecdote for you. I told CBF about this the other day because he was there while it was happening, but the other day I was in a cafe, not this one, a different cafe, not as good a cafe, didn't have cool-ass cafe jazz, and I was just sitting there on the phone with CBF, minding my own business, doing something on my laptop, when some guy that looks nearly homeless, but not quite, wearing a mask with a beard with white hair, gets up from his armchair, walks next to my table, takes out a pack of cigarettes, pulls out one, and then places it on my table next to my laptop in front of my tray with my coffee, pointing straight at me, and then just walks out. And granted, when he's there I go, no thanks, I don't smoke. And he mumbled something I couldn't hear because I was wearing headphones and one ear wasn't covered, but I couldn't hear what he said. And then he just leaves, leaving his stuff, and then comes back in a few minutes later. Now I don't say anything, but just literally outstretches his arm, places one cigarette right on my desk, pointing right at me.
That's definitely weird.
That is what I call a holiday donation. Oh my god.
You can call that a charitable donation all you like. I simply refuse. The only way I would accept it as a charitable donation is if it were a girlfriend named Mary Jane.
So do you want to have a rent-a-girlfriend service, Lonecrit?
Okay, that joke went completely over your guys' head.
No, I was about to.
Okay, then it's just CBF that didn't get it.
Who the fuck cares about the new Spider-Man movie? I don't.
What?
That makes, like, one of us CBF, because I'm actually excited to see that one. Too bad my friends kind of saw it first.
The only thing I care about is the fact that Willem Dafoe was a Chad who wasn't even supposed to be in the movie. He just came in and did shit.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Let's fucking go. So the thing is, I don't want to see Alfred Molina again. It's cool that they got him back, but I can't help but, feel rightfully a bit annoyed that they're bringing him back after his last ever line was, "I will not die a monster."
Yeah, like, he's shown to be a villain in the trailer. I don't know if they change that or subvert that in some way. I'm holding out hope for that, but I'm just saying it's so weird.
It doesn't matter what the explanation is, that's the lasting impression that was left of the character, and then boop, he's back.
Yeah, and he's, like, looking like a bad guy.
Like, Kaiser, can you imagine if in Kamen Rider they brought back Inui Takumi?
Oh my god, that'd be fucking terrible.
They've brought back the actor multiple times.
I mean, yes, but is it the character?
It's the actor playing the character.
Oh my god.
Now, I think this was an alternate universe from Decade. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Also, two things. Firstly, CBF, Christmas drip. Christmas drip. Christmas drip. Christmas drip.
Christmas drip. Christmas drip.
Christmas drip.
And here I wanted to wear the Masato hat again today. But oh well. Next year.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, it's my birthday. Let's go. Turning 21.
Hey.
Go, Lone Boy. It's your birthday. Go, Lone Boy. It's your birthday.
Now, here's something to actually celebrate.
Damn straight, King.
Being related to the defeat of the Pink Russian, we sleep. Lonecrit turning a year older, real shit.
Yeah, the Lonecrit turning into drinking age, real shit.
I live in Europe. I was already drinking age.
Okay, fair enough. But the biggest brain is the fact that my first video finally got 1,000 views.
That's cool. By the way, just saying, in the UK, legal drinking age is 18, and I'm from Greece, and there it's like, in practical application, it's basically 15 or less, so like, I've been of legal drinking age for years.
Well, look at you people having something to celebrate about. Anyway, did you know that Sonic's personality was actually based on Bill Clinton?
What?
Okay, anyway.
No, wait, Sonic, no, don't go to that island! You'll get put on a black box.
Okay. You know what?
Don't have sexual relationships with that woman, Sonic. Amy's right there.
Oh my god.
Now listen, CBF, okay? Sonic did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Since when that woman?
With that hedgehog.
He did kiss Elise that one time in Sonic 06 though. He did do that. But aside from that, no sexual relations.
Okay, that one's not him. That was not out of his control. He was dead.
True.
Okay, anyway, CBF, I hear you watched Zero no Tsukaima Familiar of Zero Season 1. Tell us about that. Tell us about how much you enjoyed yourself. Tell us about how much you like it being spanked and called a daddy.
Shut the fuck up. I am not into BDSM, Lonecrit.
Listen, man, we don't judge. Just tell us your story, alright?
Believe me, I have different fetishes, and that is not one of them. But anyway, so, Zero no Takaima's a frustrating beast. Not even because it's necessarily, like, all that bad, because to be honest, it isn't. It's more so that, Louise kinda becomes,
the devil?
over time, she ultimately becomes the single worst thing about the entire show.
So what you're saying is that Louise to you is like Konami to us in regards to freaking Kaze no Stigma.
You know what? It's funny you should say that. The other day, CBF and I were talking, and I directly, like, brought up the example of Kaze no Stigma as just a thing that was good for, like, 2 seconds. Yeah, we were talking about Healer Hero, and the idea of making the revenge the good bit. Tsukiko Rui complaining about that shit being over and done with immediately, and wanting to make that last the entire series, and I kind of get the inclination, because you know when series just start out with something really good and blow their load really quickly, and they immediately finish it, and then they're just something completely different for the rest, and I directly brought up Magi, Labyrinth of Magic, where first 2 episodes is just dungeon crawling, and then the rest is something I don't give a fuck about, and Kaze no Stigma, where it does Kazuma's thing for episodes 1 and 2, and that's amazing, and is great, and then there's the rest of the show.
And then, while not entirely to the same scale, because it takes a lot longer, I brought up Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and how, like, the first season, like, the first 64 episodes were fun and interesting, Grand Prix and cool shit, and then the second half is a sci-fi dumpster fire. Until the ending, that's actually kind of good, but still.
To be fair, most Yu-Gi-Oh! Endings suck, except for Vrains. That probably has the best ending.
And for 5Ds, that was, at least to some extent, out of their control. We're not gonna get into all the real-life shit with that and cults and shit.
And at least they had Masaki Endo in there.
True, but back to Zero no Tsukaima. It doesn't have cults, but it does have political intrigue, which is one of the less interesting parts about the show, because honestly...
Wait, it does?
Yeah, with season 1.
Okay, I've seen it like, I don't know, like 10 years ago.
It's more so in, like, the back half. It starts getting to a point where it's like, alright, Zeno Louise and Saito, who is now her familiar, they were assigned to deliver, like, the princess's letter to, like, the prince of, like, another part of the kingdom. And they get, like, this one guy who assists them, who is, like, an adult pedophile who wants to marry Louise.
As opposed to a child pedophile?
Listen.
Well,
wording aside, he ends up killing the guy, running off with all that stuff, because he's part of, like, an insurrection force that ultimately makes it so, like, now everything is at war. And that's ultimately what happens, like, in the back half.
Distinct of that, tell us, CBF, how do you feel about the prospect that I suggested to you the other day of Louise feeling like a parody and a piss take of Tsundere's, which is just, like, ramped up to the extreme, but then it just played completely straight?
The thing is, there are multiple ways they could have gone about this.
because that's how it is with like freaking most early 2000s fucking Tsunderes, dog.
That's how it is with a lot of tsunderes even nowadays. Like fucking Euless from the Asterisk War and Mine from Akamega Kill. At least in their introductory scenes that are fucking stupid and aren't even that like the characters that much.
Well, here's the thing though, Louise literally owns Saito, or rather, he's tethered to her. He can't possibly manage in this world, so the power dynamic is way in her favor, and she basically owns him. He's basically a slave who just doesn't have to listen to her, but basically has to listen to her. And anytime he even looks at another woman, or sometimes when another woman does something of a sexual or romantic nature with him, she literally has a whip like what you use for horse riding and whips him in a locked room.
A riding crop, yeah.
At first, it was just her, like, kicking the crap out of him. Then it escalated to that, and then it escalated to both. The worst part about it is that half the time, it's played for slapstick.
And it's not
That's
funny.
when the dynamic is at its absolute worst, and it's just like, stop, no. It was interesting in, like, episode 2, when they were, like, balancing her entitlement towards him with an actual sense of care and a willingness to try to get him up to speed on how the classist-ass world here works. But then it just sort of devolves into increasingly mean-spirited slapstick because, haha, he can get fucked. And, like, the worst part is, like, he's also at fault for being kind of an asshole towards her and a pervert. But other times, it's, like, entirely not up to him whether or not a woman, like, say, Kirk, makes a sexual advance on him.
Also, to state the obvious, they're not in a relationship. Like, he can make horny eyes at whoever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, especially in regards to Louise, who didn't even fucking want him at first.
Also, disclaimer, obviously, like, leering at women and creeping them the fuck out is wrong. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, yes.
At the same time, though, whipping people is also pretty wrong. I think we can all agree.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
But if they had more of that push and pull, like, dynamic to them, it wouldn't be quite as annoying as it tends to be half the time. Because, like, they had an interesting thing there. But apparently they're just like, the animator's like, no, let's ratchet up the violence for the sake of slapstick.
Yeah, unfunny fucking slapstick.
Yeah, it's just like, woman beat man, ha ha ha. Isn't that funny?
Honestly, I swear to God, the only reason I enjoyed Aho Girl at all is because it had the novelty of having, like, the opposite of this.
But even you admitted that that wore off pretty quickly anyway.
Yeah, it did, because, like, the girl doesn't feel any pain. She just, like, shrugs it off, which kind of ruins the fun.
That and a joke that just amounts to man beat woman or woman meet man because boo, because it's expected is just a really shitty trope. It's not funny. It wears off, gets diminishing returns quickly.
Yeah, so let's really establish something here. So Lonecrit is only okay with watching a show about a woman getting her ass slapped around if she actually feels pain. I just want to establish that.
Well, like,
Misogynocrit time.
It's like, it felt really refreshing to watch because of how opposed it is to the otherwise, like, trend. But the thing is, it's not particularly funny for two reasons. Firstly, she doesn't feel seemingly pain. And you know, like, the rule that they say about comedy, right? To have comedy, somebody has to feel pain. So, like, you see a lot of comedy things, and it's not really funny when somebody, the butt of the joke just doesn't give a fuck, like, and they're just completely stone cold. This is the equivalent of that, first thing. Secondly, it comes off as too mean-spirited sometimes, because Aho Girl, as the name implies, she's not like a piece of shit. She doesn't, like, pull some Louise shit. She's just selfish, but mostly really stupid, to the point where it inconveniences everybody. And sometimes she just makes an absolutely dumbass face that's really annoying.
Also, some of this is why I eventually hated Konosuba as well, because it's just like mean-spirited, haha, let's just beat the crap out of the main character because that's what's expected, rather than because they actually did something fucking assholish or stupid that makes it cathartic to watch them get tainted.
Honestly, I heavily disagree with that, but let me say this. I will give my brief stance that Konosuba at least attempts, and I would say succeeds, to be clever in that regard.
For the first 4 episodes, yeah.
Alright, Zero no Tsukaima, from what I remember, and most fucking early 2000s harem romance schlock like it, do a shit job doing that.
That is in general.
Yeah.
And even shit like what I've seen from Inuyasha.
You heard it here, folks. Kaiser Shonen 2021. Konosuba is good, actually.
Yes. Factually.
Inuyasha is a bit questionable.
Don't talk. Okay,
Inuyasha
here's the thing.
literally has like a collar around him that makes it so that Kagome can control him. However, the power dynamic is somewhat in his favor though, because if I remember correctly, it only makes it so that she can stop him. It doesn't make it so that she has full control over him, or he can make him fight for her.
fair, but I remember the sit boy scene.
No, yeah, that's how it works. She actively needs to be, like, paying attention to him and use the spell in order to do that. And I think it prevents him from killing her?
And then there's Your Lie in April, but we're not gonna get to that either. Anyway, Zero no Tsukaima... Like, they could have done that, or they could have made her just, like, an actual parody. Or better yet, just, no. Go back to the first thing. Have her be, like, a relevant side character, and just make it the adventure of Saito and his classmates. Because that's when the show is at its best. When it's just, like, him, the dumbass blonde Casanova Guiche, and his, like, weird relationship with Montmore, whatever her name is. Fuck, does that French names that are super long? Montmorency or whatever. But it's just, like...
Yeah, Montmorency.
Yeah, that one, where there's just going on adventures, doing dumb shit like that with them, and Kirk or whatever. That stuff, that's when the show is just, like, genuinely harmless, just kind of fun, you know, they rely on good facial expressions and just, like, fun antics with characters that actually have decent chemistry and shit like that.
What you're saying is ditch the whammon, bros before hoes, Sigma male grind set.
No, Stigma male grind set.
No, don't ditch the women, because then we have to ditch Kirke, who is the best girl and one of the two best characters in the show. Even though she starts off in, like, episode 1 just being, like, an obnoxious whatever bully to Louise, where it's just, like, you know, the whole trope of just, like, the main character, I bully you because you're just worthless and a fucking loser. You can't amount to shit. But then she actually just starts becoming an actual person.
Can you even game, bro?
Thing is, Louise is so unlikable that I can't possibly care.
Yeah, like, that's the problem with Louise, is like, it's like, at first, they're like, alright, well, you can see why you can sympathize with, we can see why she is doing some of the shit she does, but then it just gets worse and worse. It's like, okay, no, she's actually just really insufferable half the time.
You know it's fucking bad when the bully comes off as a better person than your main female character.
She at least treats Saito like a human being, and yeah, we know she wouldn't otherwise, but still, even if he were some random nobody, she'd still treat him better than Louise. Think about that.
Yes.
To be fair, part of it is also because she just wants to make advance on him, because she gets around even more than Guiche does, but still, she actually views him as, like, a human being. Then there's her whole, like, subplot with Tabitha when we find out, like, what her past was like and how bad that was. We're like, yeah, we're actually humanizing some of these characters now and just making her just, like, the most empathetic person in the show.
Or don't even go that far. Here's this massive big brain idea, guys, okay? Alright, you're waiting for this? You're waiting on this? Alright, you want to hear this? How about you actually make the shit funny? Yeah, that dog agrees with me, see?
Like the dog right outside our cafe.
I know, shot in the dark, right? But make this shit fucking hilarious. If you do that, then I won't fucking complain. Because most of the time this shit is supposed to be played for comedy. But not even 12-year-olds would laugh at this.
Okay, firstly, man, what a base to doggo. Secondly, Kaiser, you're actually wrong, because Familiar of Zero was really popular.
And it is funny, just not with this. It's funny when it's just the likes of Saito and Guiche just, like, dunking on each other. Or, like, the Love Potion double episode where it's just like, oh, like, Montmorency is sick of him just constantly trying to flirt with, like, all the first years, so she makes a potion.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's, like, this weird ebb and flow of her trying to get him to drink it, but other things keep interrupting it. And then just Louise just comes in storming off after seeing, like, a misunderstanding between Saito and fucking Siesta just broing out in the bath about, like, you know, Japan and their past and stuff like that, and she just comes up just like, this, I'm drinking this, just fucks off, and then the next thing she's like affected by the love potion. That was funny.
Man, good old rape, I mean love potions, eh?
Hey, well.
Just saying, I've got some serious theories about the Harry Potter universe. Think about it. Think about that. It's regularly distributed. They sell it to children. Fred and George sell it in their shop.
The Wizarding World of Turfery.
You see, this shit is why we don't support J.K. Rowling on this channel, guys.
Yes, yeah, that's the reason. That's the reason. You got it.
We're done with the Wizarding World of Turfery here. Let's get back to... I don't know.
Yeah, but what's your overall verdict on the series?
if they weren't as harsh with Louise's BS as they were, or if they just made it more of the adventures of Saito and the classmates, it would be like a relatively decent, harmless show. Like, sure, the production values are very mediocre, a lot of the plots are just boilerplate as hell, but we do have a few fun characters to work with. It's just that the main thrust upon the show ends up being more of a liability in terms of execution, so it just becomes like this frustrating mixed bag with some episodes that are pretty fun and amusing, and then some episodes that are just agonizing, watching Luigi just constantly beat the shit out of the main character, be super stupid, or just get them into some of the more obnoxious plots, like the maid cafe plot with like the extreme camp gay stereotype, which let's just
Skipping over that.
Yeah, let's skip it.
I'm not gonna say Sasuga Japan. I'm not gonna do that, because I'm bigger brain than that. But like, by the way, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I can't wait, CBF, for you, if you watch any subsequent seasons, just to see the sheer volume of girls that want the Japanese D, including the princess.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, that's when it just steps into full-on harem shit.
Kaiser, remember the elf girl with the massive badonkadonks?
Yes, I remember the big badonkadonk women.
Kiriki is the best girl and hottest girl. Also, the weird thing is, like, sometimes with Zero no Tsukaima side characters, they're surprisingly pleasant, and sometimes you get, like, a pretty interesting arc with them, and I heard that's what things are gonna be like soon. At the same time, it's just like, I'm not looking forward to more Louise bullshit. I'm not looking forward to, apparently, Siesta just devolving into a really obnoxious love triangle competitor and shit like that. But yeah, Zero no Tsukaima, it's a mixed bag.
Don't worry about it at all, CBF, I assure you, it only gets worse. Christmas drip.
Shame. No wonder Roger likes the light novels more than the anime.
Yeah, by the way, CBF, I can't believe you'd say that a JC Star show doesn't look good. Like, shake my head, man.
How fucking dare you, you fucking degenerate piece of shit. How could you bully JC staff like that?
I mean, it doesn't look bad. It has nice facial expressions. It's just very middle of the road in most aspects, except for a few fun.
Yeah, degenerate pleb.
What, are you gonna call me a plebeian? Like Sato? Yeah, remember the whole, like, plebeians versus aristocrats plot? Sometimes it's kind of interesting, most of the time it's, like, whatever.
Yeah, look at this horror over here being like JC staff, more like J crap staff.
Harrow, more like Kokoro.
At least it's not One Punch Man Season 2, that's all I'll say.
Don't remind me of that.
By the way, in other news, I finally watched not only an anime, well, I finished Meizu Nikoku. Coming soon, question mark?
Very soon.
Just saying.
However, I think there's a certain hype train of yours. Something about pussyfooting around something.
Yeah.
And flying.
Around that.
CBF, I have absolutely no idea what you're referring to.
Alright. What is this other show that you are referring to that is definitely not train related?
Absolutely no trains whatsoever. In other news, tickets please for the Baccano hype train. See, you don't know this, CBF, but that's actually a line that one of the characters, Claire Ashfield, says to another character, and it's supposed to be creepy and scary.
Wait, what?
Remember when Claire Ashfield is covered in blood, and like he's scouting out the flying pussyfoot for people that are on there illegally, and he goes up to the one girl that works for the Information Guild or something, and he just goes up to her ear and whispers, "Tickets, please."
I remember that.
Is it actually as intimidating as it's supposed to be?
No, it is intimidating to her. It's not supposed to be intimidating to the audience, because like, he's initially depicted when we see him as the rail tracer, as just like this great big black mass. In reality, he's just like covered in blood. But initially when they're depicting him like this, yeah, it's not supposed to be intimidating. It's actually supposed to be kind of funny, because he does this to her and he whispers it in her ear and she just freaks the fuck out.
You're afraid of men covered in blood with that Sigma male grind set.
Shake my head. Get you a real woman who would be with you even with blood covered all over.
I mean, my guy, he did do that, sort of.
See, like I said, the grind set is fucking strong.
Spoilers! Now, I haven't actually seen this show, and I want to at some point, so let's see some of the spoilers to a minimum this time.
Yeah, all I said was that he tries to get a girl. That's all I said.
You said that he got one, not that he tries.
Well, I said sort of.
You'll know when you see it.
Okay.
Speaking of which, Kaiser, what did you think about that whole relationship?
There isn't a whole lot I remember because it's been a while, but I remember it being interesting.
You may call me crazy, I actually really like that. It reminds me of one of the really weird relationships from Durarara, like, I think her name was Haruka or something. Remember the one who had plastic surgery to look like Celti's actual head because she wanted to get with a guy, and that kinda worked out.
Oh, yeah. And that other dude. I think the thing that kind of sells both of those relationships for me generally is that they are shown to be as morbid as they are. There's this sort of underlying... I don't remember exactly how they portray us in the show, but from what I remember, they kind of have this sort of consistent underlying aspect of like, yeah, this is kind of fucked, but... you know, we're going with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know I'm gonna come off as a little hypocritical given my very scattershot addressing of Zero no Tsukaima, but since I don't know much about this show, what is Baccano?
Actually, I don't know. I know that in Durarara, like the name of Durarara, that's the onomatopoeia for a bustling city. I don't know what Baccano is supposed to mean, because they never say it in the show, and as far as I know, it's not an onomatopoeia, so like,
Also, Baccano no theme
is amazing.
Kicks so much ass, it's actually even better than the OP.
Well, the opening is amazing too.
Straight up. Awesome, just god tier free jazz.
The fucking soundtrack in general is incredible. Especially to me, because recently I've been getting into more jazz stuff.
Nice.
Really, I wouldn't have noticed when you watched Cowboy Bebop.
Soon he'll be bumping up that Miles Davis.
Oh yeah.
And the Charlie Mingus.
Or freaking John Coltrane.
Speaking of which, I wanted to make this joke last podcast, but I forgot. Cowboy bingle bongle dingle dangle yiggity doo yiggity da libby labby toota.
Are you proud of that? Are you proud of what you just did?
Yeah, see.
Something bebop. I don't remember enough about Roots music.
See, I managed to reference Cowboy Bebop and Doctor Who or other David Tennant to being amazing in one go. I'm very proud of myself. You go sit in the corner. Bitch.
Okay, well, maybe you should actually get to explain this fucking show to our friend CBF here, instead of jerking yourself off.
Okay, CBF, as you may or may not know, Baccano is a story set predominantly in, like, Prohibition period America that is told over 3 different time periods, those being, if I remember correctly, 1939, 1940, and 1941, or 1940, 1941, and 1942. And these 3 stories involve some similar characters, mainly tied together very loosely by the characters of Isaac and Miria, but very, very loosely. Generally, there are a few other overlapping characters in those 2. They don't really do much, they're just kind of there. And these 3 stories are told at the same time, and they predominantly relate around the events going down on a train called the Flying Pussyfoot that is a cross-America train that's going across America, where you just so happen to have like 2 different gangster groups on it, trying to do 2 different things, plus a guy who's part of a gang and his demolitions expert fiance, plus a crazy person who you'd think is an immortal but actually isn't, but is like just crazy good at killing.
Also immortals.
Oh yeah, about that Immortals thing.
Yeah, there are immortals. There are immortals running around. Also, out of the other 2 storylines, one of them, like, involves builds to some people becoming immortals, and one guy, it follows his induction into a gang, and the other storyline revolves around finding a very specific person that's in one of the other storylines but has since gone missing.
Yeah, champ.
By the way, Kaiser, remember what happened to that guy?
Oh, shit, yeah. Oh my god.
That's fucked.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the story structure of Baccano. It's probably some of the most unique I've seen any other anime, really, or even just shows in general, because it keeps moving around these sorts of timelines, and you'd think it'd be really, like, discombobulating to watch, but it actually does a good job.
You're really discombobulating to watch.
Thank you. But actually, it does a really good job of sort of seamlessly transitioning from plot point to plot point in each different timeline, and seeing how they all kind of converge with each other really consistently well. And this is helped largely by some of the best fucking endearing character work I've seen in a while, at least at the time that I watched it.
Yeah, like, in the beginning it's not so interesting, but it really does build on you, like, Kaiser, absolute god kings, Firo, and Jacuzzi Splot.
Yeah, buddy!
We stand them.
We stand, man! Those motherfuckers are gangsters. They're fucking great.
Yeah, boy. I liked Firo immediately, literally from his introduction. But then, CBF, this character is such a badass mad lad that once a room he's in gets shot up by some guys outside with Tommy guns, and guess what this motherfucker's response is?
something like, I don't know, just coming back up, removing the bullets, like, that wasn't cool, guys. Just walks up to them.
No, he's not one of your chill mortals. No, his reaction is to, before the smoke even clears, run out from the store he's in, jump on their car, and then drop kick one of them right in the face.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, yeah. That's metal.
While running at like Mach 1.
Yeah, he's fucking great.
While he's covered in like bullet holes.
Yeah.
Too bad he can't run at Mach 5 to go on the fucking Mach-a-go-go shit like that. It's all that speed racer shit.
Well, I think that's probably for the better because Speed Racer is a fucking sociopath.
True.
Also, Fira's coat is green, not red. Not good.
If he were a redcoat, he'd be British.
No, if he were a red coat, he'd be a Shah custom as opposed to a mook.
Damn.
True.
By the way, yeah, Fira is great though, like his introduction is great, but then you get to the scene eventually with Ennis, you know exactly which one I talk about?
Yeah.
And he's just like, man. Like, you can see why in the framing device the narrator and the young girl, like, suggested that he's the protagonist. He's not, but you can see why they'd say that, because that thing he did, like, both at the end with Ennis and then slightly before that with the main villain of the show, that's a very protagonisty thing to do.
Yes.
Also, interesting that there's a framing device.
Oh yeah, all three stories are connected by a journalist or something talking with a young girl, and a young girl is like talking about all these events, and she's like, well, where the hell does the story start, you know? And if this were to be a story, like, who'd be the protagonist? Who's like the focus of these events? And he starts talking, and he's like, well, you know, to understand this, you gotta look at these different time periods, and if you were talking protagonist, well, it could be this guy, or it could be this guy, or it could be this guy. By the way they cap end that in the OVA is so good, where like they talk about the idea of having endings, and the guy's like, life doesn't have endings, life goes on, it's just people running into people, yada yada yada.
Yeah, and the montage that accompanies that was really good. That's sort of like the whole tone of the show. It has a sort of life goes on kind of feel with it, and you're just seeing these people sort of converging with each other and interacting and kind of separating as quickly as it happened.
By the way, CBF, I'm gonna drop you a small spoiler, but it's only a partial one.
Just a tip, CBF?
Shut the fuck up, Kaiser.
Kaiser, what I was gonna tell him about is like the demon without mentioning the form.
Gotcha. Also, Kaiser. Okay, that's interesting, the fact that there's a demon in what's supposed to be like a 1930s setting. And also, Kaiser, since you said life goes on, I cannot think about that without thinking of Gundam Seed Destiny.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh god.
God fuck it. Why do you have to make me mad, man? I keep telling you my fucking mental weaknesses.
To be fair, Seed Destiny does have goated EDs.
I know, and that's what gets me mad.
Anyway, CBF, what I was gonna say, right? The demon that made everybody immortals is a character in the show, but I'm not gonna tell you who. You have to guess that.
Okay, then. That's something.
But while you're watching...
Did the devil go down to Georgia, though?
Fuck off. Actually, you know what? Jokes aside, this character may have gone to Georgia. Like, I don't remember. They're mainly in Chicago, but hashtag maybe.
Oh yeah, they were in Chicago. That explains the accents in the dub. By the way, the dub is great.
But yeah, all you gotta remember while watching the show is that a character in the cast somewhere is actually the demon that made that made the first set of immortals.
That's definitely something.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I found that out.
Yeah, me too. But like, also, a sort of thing that kind of spices this up is that basically Baccano is set in the same universe as Durarara, so take that with what you will.
Yeah, because Isaac and Miria cameo in like at one episode of Durarara when Mikado gets all the dollars together.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it by the same author?
Yes.
Yeah, the light novels are by the same author or authors. Having said that though, the light novel, interestingly speaking, these three stories were told chronologically.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Honestly, I'm not sure how much more impressive the show would be if they did it in chronological order. That kind of ruins a lot of the spice of the show for me, and the way that the story is constructed.
Kaiser, remember that one guy who went missing, where the third story's about finding him? Because in another timeline, we're seeing him. Remember, he's like one of those guys that beat up the old man?
Yeah.
In the alleyway, who then got the shit beaten out of him by Ennis. That whole thing, you're seeing him like up and kicking in one story, and then another story, he's nowhere to be found, and it's like, So you're kind of wanting to see the end of that first story to know, like, give more context to the third, and then when you find out what happened to him, it's like,
Yeah, honestly, it's you're really pushing me to rewatch it because I legit don't remember a whole lot of the details of it, but it's really interesting.
Well, do you remember what happened to him?
Vaguely.
So basically, it sounds like a really sick and chaotic good time that ends up weaving everything together surprisingly cleanly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Kaiser Jacuzzi Splot, right?
Jacuzzi is the boy. I don't give a fuck what anybody say. He is the boy. He is a good boy, but he also has a fuck around.
He's the best boy. Like, in the beginning, he's kind of but then he kisses niece, and it's like, a lad. And then, like, you see him confronting Claire Ashfield, and it's like, oh man, he's made of some good stuff.
CBF, Jacuzzi's fiance, niece, is like the hottest chick in the show, and you'd really like her.
Yes. Yeah, he would.
I have a feeling I'd like a lot of characters based on your descriptions from what I've seen. Also, the dub is really good from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, the dub is great.
Is fantastic. It is the only way to watch it, in my opinion, objectively.
Kaiser, Jacuzzi in the OVA though. Jacuzzi in the OVA is like god tier.
I need to rewatch the OVAs actually, just to see him.
You don't remember what he did, but he did the laddest thing ever. It's like, the OVA is like what really made Jacuzzi. It's like the show made it like, oh yeah, with like Claire and niece, but then you see him in the OVA and it's like, yo! Like CBF, I cannot stress this enough, you have to watch the OVA. You have not watched the Baccano if you have not seen the OVA.
No.
It doesn't matter how weird or annoying it seems at first when they introduce the guy who feels, in a way, like Diet Lad Russo, even though I don't agree with that opinion.
Me neither.
No, because he is different.
Yeah, he is definitely different. I remember a bit about that guy.
Because I can't see Lad Russo doing what that guy did at the end. You know, he actually kind of reminds me of Rokujo from Durarara, except Rokujo is sane.
Fair enough, yeah. Honestly, the score that I have for Baccano right now is like an 8 out of 10. If I rewatch it again, it would probably be higher.
I think I give it a 7 or an 8, but that's really interesting to hear. It's, I think, just the beginning that feels a bit whatevery, but like as it goes, you fall into a groove. I think it's also that you get to experience more of the characters and see who you like. Everybody likes Lad Russo. I didn't particularly care for him, except that one thing that he did at the end on the train that I liked. A lot of people really love Claire Ashfield. I didn't really love him that much in the show, but then I got to see him a little differently in the OVA, and that was cool. I really liked Kessler Maya, but when he'd sometimes cry or be childish, that'd be kind of for me. I do wish that they did something different with the character, but I'm just assuming that because he's stuck in the body of a kid, his brain isn't developed. He's kind of an adult, but kind of a child.
And just a lot of other interesting characters like that. My personal favorites are Isaac and Miria, who have a semi-Team Rocket thing going on, but...
See, I actually don't care for Isaac and Miria.
So you don't have a soul, got it.
Is that the only thing you can say? Is that your go-to line? Are you that lacking in creativity?
I'm just stating facts, man. I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, you sure seem to state facts in an awfully repetitive way.
I'm assuming that they also don't care about your feelings, Lonecrit.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is that if Kaiser's gonna be this consistent, he may as well get a soundboard.
What, are we gonna put in a laugh track too?
And I'm gonna put in the soundbite of you talking about freaking demon babies into it.
Demon babies. Covered in slime. Hee hee.
Anyway, watch Baccano if you haven't, people. It's really good.
Baccano is wonderful, but again, seriously, people really liked Lad Russo. I'm like, meh. Who I did like, though, a lot is also Nice, Ennis, and Laforet. Yeah, they're lovely.
Very, very. Oh, by the way, CBF, cool thing. Speaking of a show that I haven't seen in a while, I heard that you actually saw the theater screening of Macross Plus.
Yeah, actually. Like, I went to the theaters the other day. Like, now that Big West, Harmony Gold, and like everything else have finally just started actually hashing shit out, instead of Harmony Gold just keeping everything, hoarding everything, and doing barely anything while they're just in a legal dispute for like 40 fucking years, they're finally, like, we're gonna still do the Macross stuff in Japan, and get some Robotech stuff, like, globally here and there, and do a big Macross push here in the West with stuff like the Macross Plus movie edition screening, and hopefully soon someday the Macross Do You Remember Love screening.
Yes.
Just imagine all that stuff. Stuff like 7, stuff like F and Delta all getting Blu-rays stateside. This is a future that we finally get to live in that is just worth it. Actually having this god tier franchise get some more high recognition here in the West for the first time since the 80s with the Robotech boom. And Macross Plus is one such example, and is probably I haven't seen a lot of Watanabe works, but this is my favorite of the ones I've seen. Because yes, this is directed by Shinichiro Watanabe.
Yep, Cowboy Bebop motherfucker just killing it with this freaking OVA/movie, depending on which version you watch. I really liked it.
Speaking of which, don't you just love, by the way, how our last podcast immediately got dated after it was announced that Bebop wasn't getting a season 2?
Oh yeah, but Lonecrit, you gotta understand, okay? You gotta understand. It wasn't meant to be good.
Well, at least you didn't say for the fans.
Anyway, enough about the really bad and awful Bebop discourse.
Yeah, let's go into base Macross discourse.
What Macross discourse?
Which also, like original Bebop, had Keiko Nobumoto doing the screenplay.
Oh, we did?
May she rest in peace.
Yes, I mean, she did, sorry.
Yeah, she did.
Man, rest in peace.
Yeah, she wrote a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, man, it's probably the harshest Macross installment out there, because, like, you know, with most Macross stuff, you know what you're getting into. It's gonna be like a fun, dramatic space opera with love triangles and a whole bunch of idol music and stuff. Except with 7, where that's, you know, a rock band. But still, like, it's a lot more, like, fun. Sure, it can be, like, a bit heavy and dramatic here and there, but it's not dour. It's not Macross Plus, where you just watch 3 jaded adults just going through shit.
Yeah, and it's also a lot more self-contained.
What's this movie about?
That's what I was getting to. Because the main 3 consist of Isamu, Gold, and Myung. Isamu and Gold are both pilots working on different prototype Valkyrie test things that are competing against each other to see which one gets the green light. And they both hate each other because...
who were also, like, childhood friends.
Yeah, but, you know, that all went south for reasons that are that end up being very spoilery.
Yes.
But let's just say they have a falling out. They both also do still harbor some feelings for Myung, and, you know, they both get into fights with each other a lot once they come into contact. Meanwhile, Myung, she was, again, like the love interest of both of them. She also had aspirations of being a singer, but she abandoned that dream and is now effectively the producer for Sharon Apple, which is this AI music program. Think a malevolent Hatsune Miku 12 years before her time. A malevolent Yandere Hatsune Miku 12 years before her time.
Sounds like a future I want to live in.
Yeah, buddy. And also the music that comes in whenever she shows up is really good.
Yeah, and the music in general. This is actually Yoko Kanno's first musical excursion.
Wait, it is?
Oh, was that plagiarized?
Hey, listen, man.
Not as far as I know.
There's an entire video dedicated to looking at which stuff is and isn't that. You can look at that if you want to. I'm not gonna.
You guys laughed way harder at that than I was expecting.
And also temp tracks as well, and that's a gray zone. But anyway, Macross music is generally very good, like with 80s to get some fun idol kayo.
You're generally very good.
Why, thank you, good sir. And you know, we could talk about like the whole like discourse about how Macross would either generally reflect what was popular at the time for Japanese music, like with 7 BK and all that stuff. Macross Plus ends up being more forward, where it's just like, alright, you know, Vocaloids, they didn't become a thing much until like the 2000s with like Hatsune Miku and everything, and look where they are now. But here, in 1994 and 5, Watanabe and Shoji Kawamori, the creator of Macross, and Keiko are all just like, alright, this AI program with like a producer, she becomes sentient and makes all this haunting and beautiful and interesting music that's all very varied. Try saying that 5 times fast. But yeah, all that. And then the way she becomes malevolent is that when Myung is used as the basis for her, she like sees through her, like all her thoughts and emotions. Isamu ends up being at like a prototype concert along with 2 other people, one of whom he has like this fling with, and another who ends up being both like the guy who's in charge of the ship he's flying and is also like a hacker who ends up just like fucking her around.
CBF, I do have a question. Again, what's the actual story here? Like, how does this relate to original Macross?
It has nothing really to do with original Macross beyond the fact that it's just set up.
Well, how does it involve war?
It doesn't.
Yeah, it's not about a war.
It does not have much to do with those. It takes place 3 decades after the original war from the Macross timeline. The only reference is how we get like the SDF one and the fact that they're commemorating the 30-year anniversary of like the truce between the humans and the Zentradi. And Geld is actually a Zentradi as well. well.
Yeah, we see a couple characters that are actually Zentradi in there, aside from him as well.
Yeah, like, so at this point, like, they've already come together, they've already just started coexisting and prospering, so this is just like a celebration. That ends up being where the final act takes place. But yeah, like, Sharon ultimately becomes the main antagonist. There's some other antagonists that are also pulling the strings behind why she becomes crazy, but seeing fucking Isamu makes her, like, start having feelings for him, and then seeing fucking Myung just get so depressed and heartbroken and saying that she wants to die, you know, no wonder the yandere just was like, alright, you know what, I'll try to pull the strings, get these guys to compete for her, I'll try to kill the person who says she wants to die, and I'll focus on Isamu, the man I now love thanks to Myung's repressed feelings for him, and since he's a daredevil who just constantly gets into almost near-death situations, she wants him to experience that euphoria before he dies. Like, get him to, like, that ultimate final euphoria before a crash. Of course, you know, she's a crazy yandere and has to be stopped.
CBF, please tell me the setup for this movie, I'm begging you.
That is the setup for this movie.
I mean, the setup for the movie basically is that, as CBF said before, is that Isamu and Gold are basically competing with two different plane robot things, and...
Kaiser, could you please pretend I don't know who these characters are and what their names are, and then could you please pretend you're not pretending?
Hey, you didn't do that with Baccano at all. I had no idea who any of them were, and I barely knew shit about what was going on there. And I'm doing a better job of explaining this!
You got a fair point, however counterpoint, Baccano is a show with more than 10 main characters.
At the same time, I'm still doing a better job of explaining this, because there's so much that's going on with these three characters, and this other character that eventually intertwine.
In a movie?
Well, it's originally an OVA. It's just condensed into a movie.
The very sour reuniting of the three main characters and how they ultimately just get on again and on again with their own conflicts, and how that ultimately leads Isamu and Gold into dogfighting during the final ceremony.
Which is great. It has some of the best animation ever.
Meanwhile, fucking Sharon is trying to get everyone killed, and so they have to stop everything. Like, once their projects get canceled, like, it just cascades into this glorious series of dogfights by the end. That is just beautifully animated. Before, you know, Sharon is finally destroyed, a bunch of characters are dead, and then Isamu and Myung get to see each other again without any, like, strings attached. None of the baggage between the love triangle and friendship group that just dissolved. And one of my favorite scenes is actually during the dogfight where Isamu and Gold are just constantly having this, like, sort of, like, dick measuring context of sorts, where you just start seeing things like, oh, like, I bought you lunch, like, 2 times, and the other one's like, no, screw you, I bought you lunch, like, 13 times. Just, like, they're reminiscing while also just trying to have this dick measuring contest while they're trying to kill each other.
Yeah, their relationship is probably some of the better parts of the movie, because, like, Isamu is kind of the loose cannon, go with the flow kind of guy who's generally irresponsible, but, you know, has a good heart and all that crap. While Gold is a lot more reserved, which makes him much less, like, unable to contain, like, big emotions when he wants to. And so, with the whole focal point of their relationship and their falling out being the love triangle and stuff like that, it's really just about these two people who really admire each other in a lot of ways, who also hate each other in others, and just seeing how that sort of plays out is really just like one of the focal point parts.
Especially because they do blame each other, or at least Guild blames Isamu for the falling out of the relationship between the three of them. And yeah, like, now that we're done with, like, all the crazy plot shenanigans, yeah, it's like Isamu is a reckless jackass and also, like, a sex perv who constantly just wants to bang, but at the same time, despite being this asshole who's just more outgoing and crazy, he also has, like, more emotional intelligence in the sense that he's not openly willing to tell people what they need to know, just sort of, like, allude to the, like, get around that so that they can come to the conclusions themselves, until it gets to a point where he's like, okay, no, fuck you, this is what you need to hear. Meanwhile, Geld is more straightforward, but more generally intelligent, straightforward, but has a harder time keeping his cool and not lashing out thanks to his Zentradi warrior blood. Because, you know, Zentradi was a race of warriors, like, that's all they did, just conquer and war, until colliding with the humans, and, you know, everything just went hunky-dory after a whole bunch of warring and stuff. You know, now they coexist and everything.
Right. Overall, I'd say, like, the movie does a very excellent job with all of this stuff. With some of the best animation in almost any OVA I've ever seen.
It is so beautifully animated and scored, and these three, like, really intricate and harsh characters just going at it. Just the more you learn about them, it just becomes very sad at the same time. And while there's, like, a hope-filled ending, there's a whole bunch of shit that goes down where you honestly don't know who to root for, assuming you care about the actual, like, because the show doesn't ultimately have them get up with anyone, but still, it's just three broken people and their dreams just coming to crash course with this one crazy AI program. And that's why it's probably my favorite Watanabe work.
Okay, I think the last score I gave it was a 7. What did you give it?
I gave it a 9.
Ooh, okay.
And yeah, there is the twist that everything hinges on. If you watch the movie, you'll know what it is and why I phrase certain things the way I did. Because it's not quite as clear-cut as, like, an action that either of them took, or at the very least, not a clear-cut action in terms of why Isamu is being blamed by Geld. But yeah.
Anyways, so I think with all that,
It's time to wrap up.
yeah, I'd say it's a good time. And all of you have happy holidays. Make sure to get plenty of eggnog, because I love that shit. That's just my crack this time of year.
Nice. You're wishing everybody happy holidays, but not me a happy birthday.
Okay, happy birthday, Lonecrit. I'm sorry.
Bitch.
Thank you. Oh, love you too, CPF. Love you too, Kaiser. Meanwhile, I can't believe all the crowd will be getting now because of this weird-ass news report and these murals, but, okay.
I'm surprised it's taken this long for anything to come about, because nothing has been happening to us out of the ordinary until this news report happened a month after all their shit.
And honestly, I prefer that.
But look, okay, we're clearly gonna be getting, like, a lot of attention, so how about this? Let's just Shaun of the Dead up in this bitch, hole ourselves here inside the Newtypes cafe, this new type of cafe, doing this new type of podcast until it all blows over.
Until we make a new type of joke, yes.
Why would we make a new type of joke? This one's already perfect. It's the apotheosis of new types of jokes. See you next time on the Newtypes Podcast.